Post office staff today added to the seemingly ever-growing list of strikers in this final week before Christmas. They joined rail, airline, baggage handling and check-in staff who've already announced industrial action in the last few days, prompting Downing Street to accuse the unions of showing contempt for the ordinary people whose lives are being disrupted. And some Tory MPs are calling for the law to be changed.
I think we do need legislation that either requires a strike to be reasonable and proportionate, as adjudicated by the High Court, or, like in Spain, Italy and Canada, to have a law where the strike can happen, but is such that you have, say, a 50% service running. That strikes me as a fair and reasonable way of balancing the right of workers to strike, which I accept and respect, but also the right of the public not to have their lives ruined. And it's that balance that I would like to see addressed in legislation urgently.
I think some of the things that I've been saying border on preposterous and then go to the level of being downright lies. So it's very disappointing that the government should see fit to do that. I mean, Southern have been spreading myth and misinformation for the duration of the dispute, but it's got quite intense on the government side now. And we believe that it was politicised in June, and ever since June, and more intensely recently, it has got significantly worse. And government interference is on a scale unparalleled since the miners' strike.
Rob Williams is chair of the National Shop Stewards Network, a grouping of elected trade union reps. Rob, why are there so many strikes going on at the moment? Is this a coordinated action?
Well, the only coordination at the moment seems to be about the media that is supporting the government. No, I think it's coincidental in the sense the strikes are coming at the minute. But of course, there is a common theme here, and that is the workers feel that they're being attacked. Living standards have stood still for a decade. Of course, we've got a safety issue on Southern Rail and many other places. So the employers and the government are on the attack. So workers feel they've got no option but to fight back, really.
But I mean, wages have been outstripping inflation for at least the last 18 months. I mean, that doesn't suggest that workers are being hit in the pocket.
Well, I think if we look at the experience that most workers have at the minute, then and you factor in costs like housing and all the rest of it, but workers have had a lost decade, and it's estimated that we could be facing the same over the next 10 years. So this is a government that is acting on behalf of the rich and these companies. This is a political strike on Southern Rail because the Tories are making it a political strike.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you say that. I mean, the Sunday Times yesterday accused you, the NSSN, of being a group run by Trotskyites from the former militant tendency, working to link up all the strikes to get the Tories out. Is that true?
No, well, we make no secret of the fact that we've campaigned long and hard to coordinate strike action. Listen, we've had a coordinated, generalised austerity attack on working people for the last 6 years, and it would take a coordinated response to push that back. But of course, you've got unique individual disputes for their own reasons that are taking place at the moment. So, by the way, it's TUC policy to coordinate strikes against the government, and we fully support that. We make no apology for campaigning.
But the TUC's always rejected a general strike, hasn't it? Which is what your members have been calling for.
Well, no. Some motions have been passed over the last few years in favour of generalised strike action. Listen, you've got this Tory MP on you talking about strikes. We've got the most undemocratic anti-union laws in Western Europe, and they're going to get worse next March. See, what these Tories are saying is they want unions are allowed to have strikes if they're not effective. The unions have been written off for ages. Strike figures were low last year. They're a bit higher this year. What you've had now is workers taking effective strike action, and the employers in these particular disputes should get around the table and negotiate with the unions rather than the Tories bring in worse legislation.
But doesn't there come a point where one has to say, look, you've made your points? I mean, the RMT has had 56 strike ballots this year. I mean, it's more than one a week.
Well, I mean, they're having ballots because the employers are bringing in really bad working conditions and changes. The strike on Southern Rail is about safety. They're bringing longer and longer trains in. They want one person on the train. They don't think that is safe. The RMT and ASLEF, and they are taking that effective action. Tell you what, there'll be a lot of workers in this country wish they had unions like that fighting on their behalf effectively.
But what about this allegation that the NSSN is a Trotskyist organisation? I mean, your secretary is Linda Taff. She was a member of Militant. Her husband was the founding editor of the militant newspaper. I mean, this is the hard left of the union movement, isn't it?
Well, I'm a member of the Socialist Party as well, but the NSSN is supported by 9 national trade unions. We have many shop stewards and union reps involved, and we support workers taking action. But I'll make this point. Workers will take action. Workers do not want to go on strike in the week before Christmas. You can absolutely be certain of that. But what are they striking on this week? Safety, decent pay, pensions. This is what workers are taking action for this week. And I tell you what, you can bring all the legislation in you like. Workers will not accept that. Listen.
So you're prepared to break the law then?
Well, I tell you what we would do. If we were talking about a different country around the world where workers didn't have any trade union rights and people talked about breaking the law if it was necessary to take action, we'd be probably praising them. But this government is breaking legislation in. The unions will be the only organisation next March that doesn't have a simple majority to make a ballot valid. That can't be fair, can it?
All right, Rob Williams, we're going to leave it there, I'm afraid. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks.